Just a couple of days ago, Twitter announced its new rebranding. Twitter as a name is no more. From now on, the service is going to be called X. The whole announcement certainly came out of left field. Elon Musk just posted a tweet about the whole name change, and he later on asked his followers to create a logo to be used on the website. This whole approach has certainly drawn a lot of discussion in the design and tech world, and of course, Musk's favorite website, Twitter. Some like the idea, others absolutely hate it, but no matter where you stand in this spectrum, the one thing that's clear is how messy this new rebranding was. Let's talk about it. As a designer who has worked on a lot of rebrands and logo redesigns, it's quite obvious that Elon Musk is the only person driving this whole thing. He's the one calling the shots, and there's no team for him to bounce off ideas and evaluate his decisions. I would be really surprised if it turned out that this new X rebrand is a product of a big design and marketing team. And the reason I'm saying that is because no experienced team would approach this rebrand the way Twitter did the past couple of days. But let's see things in more detail. First off, it's really rare for a company to completely change the name of a product. The name X has no real connection to Twitter. It's not a sub-product or something that has its origins in Twitter. Companies usually want to maintain their brand recognition because it's really hard to build one in the first place. And without one, a product has no chance of standing out. Building brand recognition is a process that takes a lot of effort and time, and Twitter has certainly managed to achieve that. The product is so well known that the actual name was dropped a couple of years ago. The bird logo was enough for people to know what it's about. That is Nike level of status. But it's not just the logo. The words tweet and Twitter are part of the everyday language throughout the world. Even in countries where English is not the main language, like in Greece, you would use the English word to describe the action. This is an insane level of brand equity the company is giving up. If there was a marketing team behind this decision, it would be 100% opposed to the name change. Of course, one could say that the Twitter brand is tarnished and it's not what it used to be, so a rebrand makes sense. But still, a regular redesign would usually change everything else other than the name. There's also the argument that X will provide a lot more services than just tweets, so it makes sense to give the service a new name. But here's the thing, if the plan was to construct this new amazing service all along, why not just build it from scratch? It would certainly be cheaper than having to pay $44 billion for brand equity that won't ever be used. What Twitter needed was an evolution and not a complete erasure of its past. It just makes zero sense. Which brings us to another issue that makes it obvious that there's no real team driving this rebranding. Usually when creative and marketing suggest a new product name, before anything else, before a logo design or any other promotional material is built, a basic research is done to see what is already out there and if there's something that might clash with that name. That research is also repeated when the logo is created. And from the looks of it, this basic research was not done. There are already people and companies using the letter X or a symbol similar to the one used on Twitter's website. That alone would have been an indication for the team to go back to the drawing board. But of course that didn't happen here because there's no real team behind this. For example, there's an artist called KX Glider that uses the exact same logo. We're going to discuss about the whole design later on, but for now let's disregard the fact that it's the exact same symbol. There's also Onyx, a relatively old Mac utility that uses a very similar design for its icon. And of course, there's Mac OS X, Apple's operating system for the Mac. OS X was used before the Mac OS renaming. It was using the Roman numeral for 10 because it was the 10th iteration of Mac OS. But at the same time, they wanted to differentiate how it was written because OS X was a complete OS redesign. It looked completely different visually than OS 9, and the architecture was also completely new. So instead of giving it the number 10, they used X. Again, one would say there's no connection to these two products. One is an operating system and the other one is a service. But it indicates the lack of originality, and if a company wants to stand out, they have to separate themselves from what is already out there. As it stands now, X stands out because of its blunders and not because of its amazing features. The whole X rebrand is not a product of marketing research, but comes from Elon Musk's fascination with the letter X. We have SpaceX, Model X, XAI, and back in 1999 we had X.com. As the author Walter Isaacson describes in one of his tweets, X.com was a one-stop everything store for all financial needs: banking, digital purchases, check-in, credit cards, investments, and loans. Back then, Elon Musk wanted X.com to be a service that could do pretty much anything. And this time around, it's the same thing. It wants to be a communication and banking platform all into one. The new Twitter CEO, in one of her tweets, said that X is the future state of unlimited interactivity, centered in audio, video, messaging, payments, and banking, creating a global marketplace for ideas, goods, services, and opportunities. It's a very generic statement that will probably have no connection to reality, but we're not here to criticize that. Even if we take this idea at face value, it's obvious that the brand's name was not a product of team effort. It was the product of a team of one. And if you're a big company and you want to be successful, it's probably a good idea to work on those things in bigger groups, just to make sure that you're not operating in your own little bubble. Which brings us to the actual design of the logo. Musk's decision is easily the worst way to create a brand's identity. He chose to crowdsource the design, and as a result, the level of quality is just not there. We can easily see that just by scrolling through all the submissions. It's just AI-generated images that have nothing to do with the fundamentals of a logo. The design that was picked was certainly the best one, but that's because it came from a font, so the props have to go to the designer who originally created the character. Which is crazy if you think about it. A billion-dollar company's logo is a Unicode character from a typeface. Granted, from what we can tell from Musk's tweet, it's an interim logo, but what is the rush? Why not create a proper identity first and then introduce it to the world? Which is the way it's usually done, and the way Twitter's iconic bird logo was created in the first place. My guess is that Meta's new Threads app contributed to Musk's decision to completely revise everything about Twitter, and he certainly has the right to do that, but the way he went about it is not the best. I feel that if Musk went through the regular channels like an ad agency or a small creative team, he would have had much better results. He would have had an identity that was thoughtful and a product of professionals that do this sort of thing day in and day out. And most importantly, he would have had an impactful launch, but for all the good reasons, and not because of how haphazard it was. I would love to hear your thoughts though. What do you think of this new ID? Is it a good one or is it a complete disaster? Let me know in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.